Harmony. Today I am talking all about period 9 and what that means. This is a beginning of a new cycle which officially and maybe technically begins in 2024 and it lasts until 2044. Since this is a 20-year cycle, we can understand that it's going to be very influential, and although it is 2023 and we have a year until the official start date of this new cycle, we can understand too that this is kind of the final transition into this next period. So in Chinese astrology or Chinese metaphysics, Feng Shui, they call this period 9. So for the last 20 years or so, we've been in a cycle or period 8. And I want to go over what this period 8 cycle was all about so you can understand how we are going to transition then into period 9. This is a topic that really catches my interest, and so I've really been trying to study and compare and contrast it into what's actually happening in our current times and where our futures are headed. If you haven't already, you can check out my Chinese astrology or Bazi for the 2023 water rabbit in this video attached. But let's go ahead and get started with talking about period 8. Now, period 8 was considered the earth element. Now, we know in Chinese medicine that the earth element is all about stability, that groundedness. It also represents a mountain, and we can also interpret it as that very dense, it's that hard work, it's the effort that you put in order to reap the rewards, because we understand that from the mountain you extract the resources or the gems and the jewels, right? Or metals even. So period 8 was really a time that we can reflect and look back on and understand that careers and going to school, going to college and getting education, putting the work in, putting the effort in was really something that was important and imperative to do in order to be successful during the last 20-year cycle. The idea of having long-term careers in one place and having a lot of trust in relationships. The earth element is also the center position, so we can also kind of interpret that as the centralization that has been going on throughout the world. Now, what is happening is we're entering period 9, and as we enter period 9 is a fire element. Now, every different kind of sect or group has given us different official start dates for this period 9 or the fire period. Some have given 2017, some have given 2020. Others agree that the final date is 2024. So for all intents and purposes, we're going to use 2024 as the start date, as that is a common one for Feng Shui. The 2020 group, some say that the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction in Aquarius in 2020 is something that also impacted or kind of kicked off this period. And I think regardless, we can say that we've been in a kind of transitional period the last several years either way. And so 2024 will really mark the kind of thrust and no going back, if you will, into this next period or cycle. So in Chinese medicine, we know that fire represents the south direction. It also represents the middle daughter, as well as kind of this middle-aged women, let's say from 30 to 55 maybe. The fire element also represents the heart or the mind, spirit, consciousness aspect, which is considered the Shen in Chinese medicine. Fire also symbolizes outward appearance. I try to get a little fiery for this video as I'm very excited and passionate about this. And it also represents things like fame, reputation. So when we think about fire in general, we know that it's very quick and transformational. Fire can be very quick to light, but we also can understand that it is quick to burn out as well. So it really needs kind of another element to keep it burning if you want it to really be something that lasts longer term. So we can see that there's going to be a lot of quick, rapid changes coming into the next 20 years. And this is easy to see in things like technology, artificial intelligence, and things like this. Fire is also representative of electronics. If we think of electricity, right, it's that kind of fire aspect. So things like fame and reputation, and we can really reflect this too in another fire element type of thing of social media. The idea of an online presence and AI, automation, these things are going to be very important in the next 20-year span. There's also going to be a large shift of focus to things like consciousness. What is consciousness? What do we consider, different types of consciousness, as well as things of spirituality. So I'm anticipating a lot of kind of questions and debates regarding these topics to come up. So we can also understand that fire is something that you can't really hold. It's not something that you can see or touch or hold onto. This is why I previously mentioned that it kind of represents this idea of fame and social media presence. So we can see that, fame is not something you can hold on to. It's not something, a physical thing, as well as social media or being online and online presence. These things are not really real, if you will. They're not really real. They're not actually real. They're not something that is tangible or physical, and really makes up this digital aspect that's going to be so influential in this next cycle. Since we're leaving the earth, this idea of things that are important, the physical or the tangible, stable, things that we can hold on to is going to become less and less relevant as we progress. And that's why, for better or for worse, this idea of physically owning things is going to become more and more obsolete. The future is going to hold more aspects of owning things that are not physical. So things like digital assets, any type of knowledge or spiritual assets that you have within yourself. We can think of it even as advertisements. We don't have those physical newspaper ads anymore or things like that. Everything is done and is promoted online, which is not something we can hold on to. And we can also see this going that way with things such as money or currency. I think this also has a big impact as well as how we see things online, right? Our interpretations or view of things. We see people online who may appear as rich or wealthy, but they may not actually live such a luxurious life as they may appear to live. So fire element is all about the appearances, right? Not what is substantial, but the appearance on the outside. Things like the metaverse, working from home, these are all not physical things, but are becoming more prevalent or more talked about that we're not physically working that job, but we are still there. Also how we understand that more and more value or even self-worth is placed on things such as getting likes and shares or other types of virtual exposures, and less about who or what we actually are composed of. Now, we no longer have to go to a physical brick and mortar store to try on things or to look at the products quality ourselves in real life and physically touch or see it ourselves in order to buy something or to be sold on something. But we are relying on influencers' fame or overall reputation, another invisible thing during this time, yet is increasingly becoming important in this new era that we're entering. So we know in Chinese medicine that there is the destruction cycle, and we know that fire destroys metal, and we know this in normal everyday life. We observe that fire does indeed melt metal. Now we need to ask ourselves, what types of things does the metal element represent? Because these are the things that are going to be destroyed or, let's say, reconstructed and maybe remolded in the next 20 years. And metal represents really all types of institutions that we currently have, and that can go from governments, education, and even the institution of marriage. Metal really makes up all types of authority as we know it. All these types of rigid structures are going to, at least, if not be completely destroyed, definitely go through some major changes. So we can likely assume that there's probably going to be a lot of people rebelling against the authorities or structures that are already in place. And we can see this already starting to happen in several different places throughout the world. So we're really kind of in line with this concept of fire destroying metal. And this is just the beginning. And unfortunately, we know that without metal's structure, there will be some level of chaos and disorder, if you will. The metal element or the metal phase also is representative of the father as well as the youngest daughter. So you may find that either these people in your families may be under the fire or have very transformational experiences during this next period. So some good news about fire destroying metal is we can also take a look at our health, and we can see that any type of conditions that are related to metal will likely lessen or be less prevalent during this next cycle. Now in the body, we know that metal is related to the lungs, the large intestine, as well as our skin. So we should see a decline in any type of breathing or respiratory issues, along with a decline in colon and rectal diseases, and even just as simple as a decline in grieving and sadness. since these are the emotions that are represented by the metal element. However, it being a fire period, we can also understand any type of fire-related conditions or issues will become more prevalent during this time. So that includes any type of heart, blood, circulation issues, any type of manic or bipolar, and really all mental health conditions, since the heart rules the mind or spirit in Chinese medicine. Really any type of inflammatory, because inflammation is really related to fire. We will likely see the rise of rapid, intense, flaring emotions of hatred, agitation, impatience, arrogance, anxiety, which, as I mentioned, will likely cause a lot more chaos and disorder than there previously has been. Now, this new 20-year cycle or period 9 is something I could probably talk all day about. It's something I'm very interested in. So I hope you gained a little bit of an insight on what's to come in this next period 9 cycle. I'd love to hear any thoughts you have about the next 20 years below in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure you like this video and subscribe. It helps me to continue putting out Chinese medicine and Taoist arts information to all of you. And I also want to say that this is a video, since it is lasting for the next 20 years, is something you can go back and revisit each year, and as time progresses, really hopefully take something new or have another interpretation of this fire element and the changes that it is bringing in. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.